Welcome to Nkhani Zathu, the pod that tells indigenous stories every day, the platform that tells you what's good and what's odd for young people and elderly alike in the areas of art, history, and culture preservation. And now your host, Rinah Kasongo.
Welcome to the Nkhani Zathu podcast, the platform where I bring to you storytellers that share stories of their stories, and thereby we have enlightening and thought-provoking discussions. On today's episode, I sit down with an individual I would describe as a media farmer. Why I say this is because this person has been dedicating his life, his time, efforts, and resources in grooming young Zambians that are making tremendous efforts in the media industry and other related industry. I am talking about the one and only Nasho Mapulanga. On this episode, he's going to share with us what that journey has been like. Like, what is the process involved in him having to groom these amazing storytellers and all the things that he does contributing to the Zambian media and communications industry. Welcome, Nasho, to Nkhani Zathu.
Thank you so much, Rinah. What an introduction.
I was just really thinking about you being a media farmer. You have been, I think for you, as farmers farm, let's say, maize is around this season,
yeah.
You are an all-time farmer because You're always cooking something for us. It is really interesting to have you, I must say, really, really interesting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, because many are the times that people venture into media to, be famous.
Yep.
But you decide to be the man behind a lot of people that are famous and likely to be famous people. What has that journey been like for you? What inspired you to start grooming young people into this process?
Thanks a lot for that question, Rinah, and I'd like to also thank you as well as the Nkhani Zathu podcast team for giving us and according us this opportunity to speak to you. More so to even Sid Muponda, who we've come from a long way together, traversing this particular media landscape. So for me, in terms of inspiration, it stems from growing up as a young child myself and looking forward to having an opportunity one day to be a creative person. So creativity has always been a part of my journey. But I think where the inspiration came from is like looking back and asking myself to say, if I was my younger self, what sort of advice or what sort of tools would I need to be able to traverse, especially what I am at this particular moment? So that's exactly where the inspiration came from. It's like speaking to our younger selves and helping younger people so that they do not get into the pitfalls that we faced ourselves. In the time when we were growing, we had mentors, mostly were our parents. And in most cases, would be your uncles or your aunties. And growing up that time, you find that they'll tell you to be what they were. So I would also say that it's a blessing from God to be able to find yourself amidst all that kind of direction and classic conditioning that parents will normally give you. At one point, I was told I was going to be a doctor, I was going to be a pastor.
Oh, I think you would have suited. Because you're really calm.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I think.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that compliment. So it was a doctor, a pastor, a teacher. My mother was a teacher. Also a bit of farming. But I've realized that the vision for the media farm literally encapsulates all of this. So it means that all of those pronouncements that they made, pastor, doctor, we've got a wellness center, which we're going to talk about later on, that we are trying to put up because wellness and holisticness in terms of an individual is very important. So it's all of those aspects. And more so, I think, to nail it down or to hone down in terms of to your question, the inspiration was around how can I be able to contribute to my younger self? Because then most of the younger people that we're working with in media are literally a reflection of where we've been. So we're able to actually see and tell them this is what you need to do, this is how you need to be able to do this. And it's really fulfilling, very, very fulfilling. So to give you part of the journey that also led into the inspiration, especially to start to work with young people, is that I worked for a media house, an advertising agency, one of the biggest advertising agencies in the country, an international global brand for close to 11 years. Then after that, there was just the calling inside to be able to give to the youths was like literally there. But even when I was working in an ad agency, we had already set up a program or a project that was around youth development. So that particular side of me has always been there. So it was like getting into the 11th year of ad agency, I just felt, it's like something strong was knocking and just calling to say, this is where you need to be. So I took sabbatical for a year, and just because probably the sort of relationship we had done with my my team when I was working, is like they agreed, okay, so I took sabbatical. It's like, if it doesn't work, I'll come back. If it works, that's it.
Wow.
So went and did a movie of all things. So took a year off and invested all the time into a movie, and the movie was more around the reflection of the reality that I had grown up into. Growing up in Kabwata, where when you go back to where you were, you find that most of your peers had actually taken to alcohol and drug abuse. It was literally a sorry sight where you couldn't even recognize some of your friends. Where they greet you, it takes you a couple of seconds to realize, wait a minute, this is the friend that I was sitting next to on my desk, growing up together in the same neighborhood. So that, I think, literally, when I took sabbatical, was like the first thing is like, how can I be able to contribute back to where I grew up from, my township, Kabwata. So we did a movie called Mufaya. The story, very, very basic story around human truths, which is as a youth, a young man struggling to find redemption in a changing world. His parents die, and he's wanting to find himself. But there's usually, when you're growing up, there's usually a stage where there's a little bit of tension between providing for family and being yourself, in terms of now and this particular young man, his father has died and he has to look after his family. But he also has peer pressure from around his friends, where he has to take alcohol and drink and involve in all kinds of illicit behavior. So the movie, I think, we poured in quite a lot. There's, I always believe is that if you believe in something, it literally brings to life. You're able to bring to life. So this was Best Movie of 2016, Best Movie of 2017. We picked up Best Actor for 2017, and the first movie to be given an insignia of recognition by the state.
Wow.
Yeah. So that, again, in a way, was basically the calling. It's like that calling, that voice that is always telling you this is where we need to go. So we then post all of that, then we told ourselves to say, okay, accolades, the red carpet and all of that, what impact do we want to really make? Delved into Chivolia for a couple of good months, close to a year, just trying to understand, because in the story, if you remember, was around alcohol and drug abuse.
Yeah.
So it's like, what sort of impact can we have? Went into Chivolia Community School, where we were doing our training to just try to speak to the youths. What were the issues that they were facing? What were they? Why were they taken to drug abuse for the most part? As you know, Chivolia is literally notorious for a lot of drug abuse, especially. So that's where then Chivolia Media Farm was born, because the information or the data that we collected from the research was that most of these youths, they had a skill, but they were just not being given an opportunity or a platform. So we said, look, coupled up with the experience that I had garnered from an ad agency, we said, let's create this particular platform. So it's find the clients, which I already had from working in an ad agency for 11 years and running as country director for one of the big ad agencies for 3 years. We already had a network. So it was bring this particular content, get the youths to create it, and they get paid out of that. Very, very basic plan or program. So 3 months training, where it's a boot camp, and we were getting the ones that are already creating content in their backyard, so they already understand in terms of how to create content. But now we're just giving them a platform. 3 months training, then 3 months internship, and a couple of them in our 2021 intake were actually taken back. So 60% were already employed after the training.
Wow.
Yeah, so in a way we thank God for like literally pushing us to be able to create that sort of impact.
Amazing. I will pick up a number of things from what you've just highlighted. But I know you are such a passionate runner.
All right.
And I would like to know where that stems from. Like, what gets you running every morning? What does that do for your well-being particularly?
You'd be interested to know that I was feared as asthmatic. You know, so growing up, what my family would tell me, because I literally castigate them every time we go to this event. I said, you devils. I joke. I don't use those kind of words. But I tell them to say, like, it's, you guys, you know, because then you are growing up and you're being told that you're asthmatic and you can't run. But one day I just woke up and told myself, say, wait a minute. My father was actually a runner, a national runner, St. Edmunds. And if I've got any ounce of him in me, I should also be able to run, despite all of this asthmatic that they talk about. So it started slowly, and before you knew it, I was doing 43 kilometers. So, and I've realized that over the years, I think 5 years now, running, I've realized that it does quite a lot in terms of your well-being. It instills the discipline, because I have to wake up at 4 o'clock every morning. I'm out by 4:30, 5 o'clock, 1 hour, 30 minutes, a good 10, 11, 13 Ks every morning.
Wow.
That literally just, you are ahead of the curve. I like to use this quite a lot, and my colleagues at the media farm will attest to it. So like, the only way to get ahead of the curve is to be ahead of the curve. So it literally, you start your day, you've got your affirmations, you've got your prayers, you're running, you're speaking to nature, you're talking to God. It literally just aligns you. There's so much alignment and there's so much energy, literally. Because then what happens is that, are you a runner yourself?
On the treadmill sometimes.
Yeah, on the treadmill, okay.
At the gym, yes.
But you notice that if you've been exercising or if you're involved in any physical fitness, until you tell yourself, your body to stop, if you do it continuously, you'd literally be going and going and going. So when I do my 10Ks, literally my energy for the day is like ahead of me. So I could continue running. So meaning that I already have that kickstart into the day, and it literally just sharpens your mind, your body, and your soul.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you still asthmatic?
No, I went, yeah, by the way, after, I think by the time I was doing my 3Ks or 5Ks, I went to the hospital and it's clear.
Wow.
So it's also that there's quite a lot of, quote unquote, I'm not going to say this because then there'll be probably maybe other patients who are different from me, but for me it worked. It's like, maybe it was actually more mental than anything. I wouldn't know, but it's very clear, and I'm able to do 43 kilometers.
From being an asthmatic?
From being an asthmatic
wow.
person. So I couldn't, like, there will be times when they said this child can't run. I wouldn't, especially when it was June, then there was a problem. But maybe I used to also listen to what was going on during that particular time, so you get classically conditioned to that. Yeah, but we thank God that I'm where I am now.
Wow. That is very encouraging. I know friends that are asthmatic and really we just tell them, say, bruh, please don't run. Otherwise you'll die.
But they should be able to try some exercise. And I always say that it's always important to seek a second opinion. And in this case, the second opinion was God telling me to say, wait a minute, your father was a runner, so can you also just try it? And I listened to that voice and I've never looked back. Yeah.
You know, every person in life has had an embarrassing moment, right?
Okay.
I would like to find out from you, what has been the most embarrassing moment that you still recall and you're like, okay, that was really embarrassing?
Embarrassing moment. So it's pretty recent actually. Maybe I think about a year, or maybe a couple of months. So when you work in any space, you obviously create this network. So we got a business, a lead. Somebody gave us a business lead from our network, and then we went to an event, which was the who and who of Lusaka. All right. So it's interesting that the cameraman is going to laugh at this because he was part of this. So we without planning, because then it was like they wanted us to do this, and we kept insisting to say we always insist on pre-production for everything. Can we come to the venue? Can we test the machines? No, you guys are experts. I said, no, but this is the way we work. So they insisted. Lo and behold, we go to the event. It was somebody's 50th birthday, and we needed to project their birthday video, where they had all of these people from around the world saying happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. So video, well done, on point, they loved it, and it just couldn't play.
Oh, wow.
This is like a birthday. You have the whole and everybody, all the ministers, and they're all sitting around the table, and it's time for it to play. And it's like where you're standing there and you're saying, so we're very happy to put this together, and you give all of those nice speeches, and it just didn't play. That was very embarrassing. But as it were, we swerved out of it, but apologized obviously, and just mentioned it was actually a technical issue, because before that we actually did play the video, but as it were, Murphy's Law somehow was against us and didn't play.
How sad.
That was embarrassing.
That was embarrassing, but it really wasn't your fault. And how did you deal with it?
We had to make up to the client. Obviously, we didn't charge them for the video, and then we also just had to talk to them, repackage the video, and then just made do. She was even laughing at it because then she's like in the middle and she's waiting for this video to play, and it didn't. So what we did also is that we sent them the WhatsApp version for the people around to be able to see. So which is like thinking in the moment.
At least
as well.
it added to something.
Yeah.
That was embarrassing, but okay.
Yeah.
As we were talking about your inspiration, I also understand that books have a way in which they bring about new perception and also inspiration. Are there books or authors that you have probably been inspired by in your journey?
So you're right, Rinah. Books do play a lot in terms of shaping our thinking, our philosophies, our ideologies, the way we perceive life. Because then books, especially biographies, I love to read where I can at biography. But then there's certain books that I would say have also helped me quite a lot. Oprah Winfrey is one of them. Build the Life You Want, as an example, is one of the books that I think literally has quite a lot of impact in there. Thomas Merton, like I mentioned, in terms of pursuit of transcendence. Locally, though, I would like to speak about a book that I read back in the day that helped me to start to think of curating or creating content. Because then reading that particular book, this is Susan Chitabanta's thing, Behind the Closed Doors. I think you remember it. You probably
I've heard
Zambian,
of it.
yeah, Behind the Closed Doors. And she in there helped me to visualize, because then the book is so real, you actually go to the places that she's talking to, and she's giving you this visual, the places that I've been to, so you can be able to relate. So you're right, books do really shape us. Pierre de Chardin, for instance, in the where he talks about we are a spirit having a human experience, as opposed to the other way around. So there's quite a lot that books actually do to us. Yeah.
Amazing. Before we get to the media farm,
All right.
I would like you to talk about Every Moment Connections. When did that start? The business side of it.
All right. That's a very interesting part. Growing up again, you find that I was this person in the community growing up where it's like Mapulanga, poor Nasho Mapulanga, so that everybody would know you. But it looks like I carried that. So what used to happen is that when I was growing up, there would be, if like say for instance somebody needs cards made, they would call you. All right. I'm giving you the background in terms of how Every Moment Connection started.
Yeah.
So if people wanted a camera, for instance, to video a wedding, they would call you. Cards made, they would call you. A limo, they would call you. So I used to make all of these referrals. Somebody wants something, I make a referral. But then I realized, so wait a minute, I could be making money off this. I'm always just being the one to say, you want this, then they have it done. And now, so it was like a point of connection. always connecting. We were the ones that were connecting all of these people. So that's how Every Moment Connections Limited was born. Originally started off in events, but eventually delved into media production and content creation.
Amazing. Again, very inspiring.
Thank you.
You started the media farms as Chivolia Media Farm,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Which is now the media farms.
Yes.
Why, before I get to the why you have changed,
All right.
how was it like working with young people from Chivolia? Because like you've put it, Chivolia is perceived for a lot of things. Just yesterday there was a riot going on in that place. How was it like, and maybe how has it been like working with young people from such an environment? Specifically, how did you create trust?
All right.
Where, because you're handling equipment
Exactly.
with
Exactly.
people that were addicts. How did you
Right.
create trust between you and your mentees?
I think the smart way was to influence the influencers. So we had their parents, we had a buy-in from their parents. And what started to happen is that with our logo, whenever you see Chivolia Media Farm, everybody welcomed us in their community, because then their parents were saying that you are the ones that are helping our children. We've got this problem, but our children are not part of this particular problem. So we need them, we need you to help them to take them out of this particular place. So the trust was also built that this particular youth, so the young people, needed an opportunity. And they could see the future in this particular platform that we had created. So, like I mentioned, is that the recruitment was more around those that were already creating or curating content in their backyard. So they were already content creators. And also the school, the community school where we were recruiting from and where we used to conduct our programs, it was very well known. So we literally struck a chord with them, and it was very, very easy to create those bonds with them. And then eventually, because then I don't know whether you want me to talk about the change to the media farms, but the trust, I think, was built, like I said, influencing the influencers in such a way that their parents were the ones who were literally pushing the youths to say, this is for your future. So already you're speaking to somebody that has got a hold on this particular person. It means that they're not going to go back.
And then how did you handle situations where maybe something gets stolen? Or maybe how do you still handle it right now?
Actually, we don't. We haven't. I think it's grace. Huh?
You've never had...
It's literally grace. We had all our equipment intact going in Chiboli.
Wow.
And you know, I think there's... any place in any country, there's dangerous places, or even in a dangerous place, there's a more dangerous place, if you know what I mean. So we are dealing with the youths who really want this bad for themselves, so they would be able to take us around and know where it is that we were going. And like I mentioned, where we created something that had their interest to the youths itself, there's no way they were going to destroy. Destroying this means that you're destroying yourselves.
It's amazing that you have not had...
Completely nothing. We had
stolen.
our equipment in there at the center, the community center, where we would be pushing and shooting completely. And there's a video that you'll be able to see where we documented literally us walking in Chivolia and taking videos. Nothing. There's quite a lot of misconception. And I think the rare cases that have happened, especially in areas that are dangerous, it's like whatever it is that somebody's doing there, sometimes that's where they are attacked, if you know what I mean. But we went there with a mission to help impact the youths. So our mission was different. And it was God sent as well.
Okay.
It says you shall stamp on snakes and they shall not bite you.
All right. I really love that. I really love that. It's helping me understand that sometimes people are rebellious towards other people because those people are just nagging to them, but they're not really wanting to help them come out of their situation.
Exactly.
And so they don't feel supported, and they will just won't welcome you in their community.
Exactly. I mean, 2021, we graduated 18 students from 20. And 2 of the students were sponsored to go on a media tour to South Africa to experience the media there in South Africa. They went to the Sowetan. They were able to go to Gomorrah, the set of Gomorrah. We literally showcased and showed them in terms of how bigger the media industry is. That literally just changes somebody's mindset. So it's a project or a program that literally is helping to change and to impact youths. There's no way they're going to rebel against that.
And how did the name Chibolya come about?
Because then that's where, if you remember, what I mentioned was when we moved from, after Mufaya, the movie got all of those accolades, we said, because the movie was on alcohol and drug abuse, we said we needed impact on changing issues to do with alcohol and drug abuse. But what better place to go than the place where it's notorious for alcohol and drugs, in Chibolya itself. So, and then again, when we were speaking to the youths and finding out in terms of what their issues were and the skills they had, we realized that content creation, even on phones, was the common thread. So it was easy to call it media, so Chibolya Media Farm. Yeah.
And then why have you then changed it to the media farms?
Because then it's an Africa agenda. It's more than just Chibolya. It's more than just Zambia. It's actually an African agenda. We want the media farms to be populated or dotted right across Africa. Already our agenda is to have a media farm in each of the 10 provinces by 2036. So we thought if we just call it Chibolya, it will be limited. But we do have still a component where it's a Chibolya alumni, which is basically a trust fund for underprivileged students who are able to study at a subsidized fee in the future. So all of these is our plans. So we said if we're just going to call it Chibolya Media Farm, it limits it. So we said the media farms, and each of the 10 provinces in Zambia will have a media farm by 2036.
Okay. You had mentioned that one of the criteria you were using then, I don't know if you use it now,
Yeah.
is bringing on board young people that are already into content creation. Is that still part of the criteria that you use to recruit people onto this program?
So mostly, I know I use content creation a bit loosely, but it's more around filmmaking, because then filmmaking takes in all the different facets, script writing, editing, sound development, sound design. So, and film is actually one of the industries that is able to literally get everyone, from the guy that is painting the wall to the guy that is handling your cables, the gaffer, to the writer, to the designer, to the makeup artist, to the costume designer. There's quite a lot. So we feel that that particular aspect helps us to absorb as many youths as possible. So that's the agenda behind the media farm. So going forward, depending on what we want to be able to achieve for that particular year, then we skew it towards that. Like, say, for instance, this particular year, we graduated 33 students from the media farm who came in for content creation from inception or from beginner to monetization. And we partnered with one of leading companies, MTN, for the content creation bit of it. So this year, we realized that a lot of youths are creating content online. So we focused to that, to be able to help them to monetize their content. So year on year, like, say, for instance, next year, maybe it will be journalists that we'll be looking at, because then that's also media. Maybe the other year could be radio personalities or radio DJs, or it could be newscasters. So wherever it is that we see a need for that particular year, because it's a media farm, is where we'll be able to focus.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand also in your description as an institution, you tackle poverty alleviation and things to do with drug abuse and whatnot. So with you then identifying what the needs of the media industry are moving forward, how are you still incorporating the curbing of drug abuse among these young people and bringing them as part of your programs? Perfect question. Very, very good question. You notice that the world has changed. The world keeps changing every day. And the challenges that the youths face have become more complex and complicated. Whatever it is that we used to face 10, 15 years ago is different now. Drug abuse and mental issues, mental wellness are a bigger part of the agenda. So we do realize that in as much as the underlying fact would be to help poverty alleviation by giving a skill that is able to bring money to that particular youth, we also realize that it's a holistic approach that we need to tackle.
mental health, drug abuse itself. And this is where we've partnered with Drug Enforcement Commission, for instance, have been our partners from inception, where they come in and are able to do the life coaching and how the youths can be able to tackle issues to do with alcohol and drug abuse and how to stay away from that. So that's been on our agenda. So you find that even when whichever course that we do for that particular year, this does not move away. It's literally part of a whole package that we want for a youth. It's about mindset change. It's about choices. It's about where we want these youths to go and how we want them to stand strong, shoulders high and say, I'm Zambian because of ABCD. So there's quite a lot of that we do. So it's life coaching, it's skills development as much as possible, and then also helping them, like I said, alcohol and drug abuse, mental wellness, sports, activities. So it's a whole package that we are giving to the youths.
You have been talking about, you usually project the future when it comes to your skills training programs and things like that. So now, people have been talking a lot about artificial intelligence taking over creative professionals and whatever they do. How have you prepared the people at EMC as well as the media firms in order for them to stay relevant so that the graphic designer is not done away with, or the camera guy, the editor and things like that? Yeah. How are you preparing your people for the future?
I'm one that is very excited about AI. Very, very excited. And not to think that it's actually going to take away our jobs, it's basically complementing our jobs. Because what AI does for me and our team is that it literally helps them to become more efficient. Stuff that you could be able to do. ChatGPT is an example where you have lengths and lengths of scripts that you need to be able to do. But now you're able to actually churn out in terms of work in a very, very short space of time. So I think that it's important for us to embrace it, which we have been doing, and we've realized that it actually helps us to do things faster and quicker, more efficient and effective. So we're always looking out for ways to integrate augmented reality as well as AI itself, artificial intelligence, to see how it can be able to help us create more content. I'll give you an example is that apart from ChatGPT, if you look at Midjourney as an example, is one of the tools that is an AI interacted software where you can be able to give parameters in terms of a visual. Visualize a villager in Shangombo who looks ABCD, and it literally brings that particular image for you as an example. So it literally helps to make our work do things faster. Where you were supposed to do 3-4 projects, now you can be able to do 6 projects at shorter and quicker and more efficient. Like I remember I mentioned again to say, pay attention. We're living in this time. Why is God bringing it at this particular time? It's so that we can be able to scale up and do things quicker. However, I do know, and this is to your question where you're saying, do you think that it's going to take over jobs and whatnot? For us, there actually is going to be a need for more wellness. And what that means is that we are preparing ourselves, because then there's certain jobs that will not be taken away. In a way, we just have to ensure that we use it to the best of our benefits. And technology, for the longest period, has actually been helping us to advance. So rather than get scared and worried, it's better to work with it and see how efficient and effective we can be able to come.
Amazing, amazing. You have enlightened my mind.
Thank you. I'm happy. I also wanted to discuss that part of my inspiration to storytelling has been growing up in the days of P.K. Chala. As an example, back in the 90s, you'd find that these guys were so amazing in terms of the way they were telling their stories, how they told their stories through songs. And for me, that particular part of me helped me to channel in terms of how I'm able to tell either visually or even poetry. All of that are inspired from that particular era. And I wish, and I can see that there somehow has been that continuity in some of the songs. James Sakala is one example who you could say that is Piquet Shala reincarnate in a way because of the way they tell their story. So I feel that culture and upbringing in any environment helps quite a lot in shaping the way we think and the way we project ourselves. And big ups to you guys in terms of what you are doing with stories and promoting our indigenous values. That's so important for us to be able to have our identity, because then I'll give you an example. A Westerner or an American comes into our space, all of a sudden they feel that they are superior, or they think a certain way. Why? Because then that's how they've been taught to be. So it's very important for us also as Africans, especially as Zambians, to find our voice. Through our stories, through you guys promoting this kind of podcast, we need to be able to find our voice and ask ourselves, what do we stand for? What does it mean to be a Zambian? As mighty as the Zambezi River, I stand in, you bring me in, I know that I'm as mighty as the Zambezi River, nothing stands in my way.
I watched this clip where your team was giving I think it was a poetry performance to the late Dr. Kenneth Kaunda.
Right.
And he said, I quote, that you have given me, okay, I have forgotten the actual words.
I can say it.
Please do, because I know you recite them.
No group has ever given me so much hope about the future of Zambia like you have done. There is so much hope about the future of Zambia. At 94, I can stand straight now.
You say it like it's John 3 verse 16, like it's an everyday thing.
Exactly.
What did that really mean for you?
It's become a mantra for me, because then one, you hear the words that he uses, he says no group. Doesn't talk about an individual, he talks about a group. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a whole village to literally contribute to the well-being of this particular individual. So for me, for him to have given that particular baton to us, to say you guys are the ones that are going to change this particular nation, I can see this is where it's going. I can clearly see, to say that's why the media farm will succeed no matter what, because he ushered a blessing in that particular moment where he literally stands up straight and releases the blessing to you guys, to say you guys carry on with this kind of energy that you are singing. Because then what the youths did was the Tiende Pamosi song recited a poem where they were talking about how they're able to move away from their problems and able to stand strong and then be able to overcome the problems that they're as Zambians. So he could see through that. And for me, it's I was inspired from that day onwards. It's like I've never looked back.
I can tell. You say that mantra like it's John 3 verse 16.
It is John 3 verse 16.
I love it. I love so much whoever watched that clip. Like he stood up.
He stood up.
Because he would bend when...
Literally. When he walked in, when he was singing the Tiende Pamosi song, because he was an old man, so he's walking in like this. But for him to stand up straight and literally usher the blessing and say, you guys are the future. Take this mantra and don't leave this. You are Zambia. You are the ones that when I'm gone, you'll be able to take on and change the world, change Zambia. So, yeah.
It was a huge blessing. It was a huge blessing.
Too much.
Yeah.
Way too much.
One of your films, 21, made it to the Bantu Film Festival in Botswana.
Yes.
How did it get to that point?
Exciting again. The writer and director, Rachel Mbewe, one of our alumni from the media farm, went and represented us. And for us, it was such an honor, because then the film itself, again, is around societal issues.
Briefly share with me what the film is about.
All right, so it's basically youths that are struggling with issues to do with mental disorders, differently abled, hearing impairment, and also suicide. So it tackles all of that in the film. It talks about how the effects of suicide can have an impact on youths and how they relate with the world. So we were very, very honored when we were nominated to actually go and showcase this particular film in a foreign country. So excitement all the way.
I'm really happy that that was done. Congratulations once more.
Thank you
I think
so
it's
much.
a huge thing whenever a film makes it out of Zambia.
Exactly.
Also, you've had films at Sotambe.
Yes. Mufai itself was voted, because when we did the film, especially when we do a feature film, we also do a documentary, because a documentary we feel is able to tell more in depth. The film we only have 2 hours to be able, but then when you talk about the documentary From Tragedy to Hope, that was the documentary that we did alongside Mufai. And this was done in collaboration with the Drug Enforcement Commission, and it was showcasing the real cases about how people get hooked on alcohol and drugs, and how some of them have been able to come out of this. So it was From Tragedy to Hope. So that was the best documentary of 2016 as well.
At the Sotambe Film Festival.
Yes.
Wow.
And Mufaya also was the best film of 2016 at the Sotambe Film Festival. And we've showcased a couple of our content, a couple of our films, including 21 itself, at the Sotambe. As well as our first film, we forgot to actually speak about this, was Chimfia. Zambia's first animated movie, Chimfia, was done from Every Moment Connections Limited.
Wow.
Yeah.
And distribution, tell me a little bit about the films you've done, because they're really good, by the way.
Right.
On what platforms have people been
Most
able to access?
Most of them is DSTV. And then the contracts, not until last year, is now when we can be able to distribute them right across. But before, the rights were tied to DSTV. Yeah.
Amazing stuff.
Thank you.
You've been doing so many great stuff. However, there's always a challenge to every good cause, I believe. There's always some challenges that people encounter. What have been those major challenges for you as you're promoting this good in our society of helping young people come out of certain situations?
I think the challenge for us has been to scale up at the rate where we want to be. And I think we've turned some of those challenges into learning curves and learning boards, so that we're able to retract a bit and say, okay, how do we navigate this? And then also the challenges have, when you talk about the youths themselves, we feel that a lot of them, their skill level has been a bit of a challenge, but we're working on that as well to try and upscale for the most part. And then also the challenge, you would say, getting the corporates to come on board. We have had quite a good number of the corporates. I would say Drug Enforcement Commission, Zambian Breweries has been one of our partners from day one, because they do what they call smart drinking. And then this is in line with our ethos, or what we stand for in terms of staying away from alcohol and drug abuse. And then also maybe the acceleration of the content industry in general in the country in terms of filmmaking and the quality of filmmaking, because then sometimes you can benchmark yourself in terms of acceptance for the content itself locally. So it's like you think to yourself to say, if we create this particular content, how is it going to be received locally? So maybe those are some of the challenges in terms of the growth of the industry itself, in a nutshell.
Okay. And on a personal level, because you're talking about that's to what extent
Yes.
I'm understanding you
Right.
are really into what you do. On a personal level, what have been those challenges that you have encountered in trying to bring about this good?
It's very easy to get broken because you're dealing with people that are broken. So in as much as it's been a challenge, and I've seen that it's also been grace. It's been God's grace, because then you can't do that on your own. So there are challenges in a way, but then there've also been learning curves where you're sitting with people and you listen to these stories and you go like, wow. So to navigate those has also equally been a challenge to me, and also to divide time, because then it requires you need to literally be focused, like razor sharp focused, in order to bring this kind of an ambitious project to life. So those have also been some of the challenges that I've faced as a person, as an individual.
Okay. I've just thought about it. You've been grooming young people, and you were not just made. What are skills and knowledge you had to invest in order for you to relate well with these young people? Because with the way I've seen from afar, you relate with them quite well, but they also highly respect you as Uncle Nasho.
Right.
Yeah. How have you built that relationship? What are things that you had to deliberately invest in order to be the highly respected Uncle Nasho, but also the buddy Nasho that I can talk to?
All right. That's an interesting, I've never seen it like that. You put it quite interestingly nice. I think it's having a spiritual foundation as one of them, the fear of God, the love of God, and then also investing time in reading, investing time in family, also learning to listen. It's a very, very, not the easiest of attributes one would have, but it's learning to listen. And then also socially, I think I've invested quite a lot in terms of being trained to navigate my social landscape. And I think to a larger degree, I know we didn't mention this, part of my upbringing is that I was in hospitality before I actually went into advertising and marketing. So I feel that skill in terms of speaking to customers, speaking to people, learning to listen, taking the orders and giving them the right orders, or being able to suggest what you could be able to have, also had quite a bit in terms of my upbringing from a skills perspective. Peer education that I did early on when the HIV and AIDS pandemic was rife back in the day. We did quite a lot of peer education. So those are I would say some of the skills that have helped me to navigate, because then, especially the peer education part, you're able to speak to a person, you're able to listen to them, you're patient with them, because then most people are not born that way, they're made that way. So it's coming from that point of understanding and literally hearing them out. Part of, like now, when I run, by the way, I listen to a lot of these motivational speakers. Jim Rohn is one of them. Currently, recently, I've started listening to Eddie Pirero and Les Brown as well. And most of them have got quite a lot in common in terms of how they are encouraging you, or they're motivating you in terms of how you deal with people, how you respect people, because to get respect, you need to give it. So it's those kind, and these podcasts as well, listening to this and reading a lot of books, and also just being a student myself, because there's quite a lot you can be able to learn. I'll tell you that most of the students in the media farm are highly talented. There's a couple I can be able to speak to. Some of them are accountants. They dance, they can edit, they can write scripts, they can dance. It's like it's a marvel. But then if you close your mind to feel like, as a leader, I know it all, you're literally just shutting yourself out. But it's having that knowledge to listen and learn and hear people out.
I like that. And it's quite interesting that through your process, I don't know if you saw it coming during the HIV era, that you did a lot of peer education. I don't know if you saw the future that you would be able to interact with young people in the media sphere. Did that ever occur to you? Like, were you deliberately partaking in those programs for such a time as this, or it just happened?
What I would answer to that is, it's a very, very important thing to pay attention, because then God literally prepares us for the future, literally, but we don't pay attention. I'll give you an example, and maybe I'll quote Pierre de Chardin again, where he says, we are a spiritual being having a human experience. What that means is that literally God and the universe and everything else is literally preparing you for what it is that you need to be at some point. And I would say that there's some parts where I did miss out. But when I look back now, I realized, wait a minute, that's why French came into my space. That's why at Evelyn Horn College, when I was doing media, there was Portuguese in my space, and I didn't take it. But here it is, it's knocking now, For instance, where some of the clients that we handle now are French-based. And French had come way back at that time. It was knocking in the door because it was preparing you for your future. So what I tell to my younger selves now, to the students at the Media Farm, is like, say, pay attention. Wherever you are, be present. Because then in there's something that you're learning. There's no coincidences. There's never coincidences. Something is put you in there for a purpose, for you to learn for your next step. So to some degree, I'm thankful to God and the powers that be, that I think I learned quite a lot of these things early on in such a way that I was able to grasp and learn. A couple of missed opportunities, obviously, but more so that most of these things that I was put in was for a better purpose.
Nice. You are a very focused person, I must say, like you have put it.
Thank you.
How do you balance being a family person as well as you having to remain focused in what you're doing as an institution, as a business, and being a mentor and things like that?
It's very important, again, to create balance, because then you realize that as a human being, you need all the, if we were to call it 360 areas of your space, well-rounded and well taken care of. If you don't, one area will suffer, and then you'll not be able to learn of how to navigate. Like, say, for instance, if I neglect family, and one of the mentees comes to me with an issue to do with family, I will know how to navigate that. So it's very, very important to find time. And also it's about delegating, because what that does is that it helps you to grow and scale up and be able to do more. I know that I've got OCD to some degree, so it's usually very difficult to let things go. So like, I want things to be done precision, to be done in a certain way. And the best way sometimes to do that is to do it yourself. But I've learned over the years that all that does, it limits you in terms of progress and scaling. So I've learned to delegate quite a lot of that. So that also helps me to be able to do some of these other things, like whether it's you're going out with family, or you're also focusing on the Media Farm and you're helping out teams. And also knowing how to actually manage your time. Time management is very, very important. There'll be certain things that you say, okay, these are priorities, so I'll do them in the morning, and then there's stuff that I can be able to do after hours. So just that balance is also very important. Overall, though, it's not the easiest of things, because then this does suck a lot of your time in there. So, but it's just finding that balance.
Let's talk about the vision board of the Media Farm. What does this entail? There's this whole picture of what is likely to happen from 2026 to 2036. Yeah. Take me through that.
All right. So the idea behind the Media Farm is basically mindset change for the youths especially. What we want is to be able to groom a crop of youths that are able to navigate and find their way holistically. And that's why you even have we have a wellness center there. And like I mentioned, content creation is like filmmaking is one area that literally can be able to take and absorb quite a lot of our youths in terms of job creation. Like I mentioned, from the guy that is painting the wall, from the person that is doing your hair to your makeup, all of us can be able to be absorbed by the Media Farm. So the vision here is to be able to create content hubs that are able to create and export content, over Africa and to the world. So you notice that there you've got a Media Farm production studio, which is film and content creation, and the radio studio as well, for one. And then, like we said, a wellness center is very, very important. Apart from, and then that's why you find that in brackets we've got alcohol rehabilitation center for alcohol and drug abuse victim as part of the ecosystem as well. But wellness does not only mean just alcohol and drug abuse, obviously, to be mental health and all of that. Then we have the alumni, and you notice that even when we're calling ourselves now the Media Farm, we've got Chibolia Media Farm alumni. So it's a trust fund for underprivileged students to study at a subsidized fee. And then lastly but not least is also to have an ecosystem where students are able to grow their own food as an income generation. So that's literally the ecosystem.
I love it. And I'm really looking forward to that. I was telling you to say, looks like a Tyler Perry studio.
Right. Does it? Okay, now that you say it. So we probably don't have a wellness center, no, I'm joking.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
It would be great for us to walk you through. We literally, from our spiritual side, we walk there through every day and see the progression. So we're equally so excited. We can't wait to see it come to life.
What's that one question you wish I was, or you were expecting I was going to ask you, but I didn't ask you?
Whether I want to stand for political office? No, I'm joking. Not necessarily. I think we've covered quite much. I did, when looking through your questions, I was pretty excited to have this interview, and I think you literally broke it down quite well. And I've asked all the stuff that I needed to speak about today. And there was also some areas where it lit me up and woke me up to like, oh, okay, so there's this is so I've learned from having this interview with you. I'm like really thankful for this interview.
Amazing. It's just now ringing in my head that Nasho for president.
All right, there you are.
Who knows? Could be Nasho for president.
Who knows?
Later on, we never know.
Yeah.
But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Nkhani Zathu, because this is what we do. You know, we bring on board storytellers, and you are one unique individual in that you have been grooming storytellers to share their stories, and it's really a marvel. I have been encouraged, particularly because when you were talking about how before then you were taking part in a lot of youth programs, and now you are dealing with a lot of young people. It's just really helping me appreciate process as an individual and how we need to really pay attention to where we're at right now and foresee the future by what we're experiencing right now. So it's been really amazing.
Great.
Well, there you have it, Nkhani Zathu. This is what we do. I bring your storytellers on board. They share stories of their stories. And Nkhani Zathu is powered by Sochen Publishers, a publishing company that is based in Lusaka, focused on developing, distributing, and promoting literature that are of indigenous values. So there we have it. My name is Rinah Kasongo. I'm looking forward to having you again next time. But in order for you to catch up, you need to subscribe to the Nkhani Zathu podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, click that button right now. Subscribe, like, comment, share on your social media platforms and all our audio distribution platforms. Leave a comment, leave a review for us. But most importantly, do not forget to subscribe, because that is how we're going to reach out to many more story lovers such as yourself. I look forward to having you next time. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, night, or whichever time. Goodbye.
Welcome to Nkhani Zathu, the pod that tells indigenous stories every day, the platform that tells you what's God and what's odd for young people and elderly alike in the areas of art, history, and culture preservation. And now your host, Rinah Kasongo.